Hey, welcome to episode 53 of the Gig Life podcast. I am your host, Stevie Taylor. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. Nice to see you. I hope you can stick around. Now, I just want to mention my website. That's www.thegiglifepodcast.com. Go check that out. It's got all the episodes on there, all the social links, the ways to share the podcast, all the different ways that you can listen to the podcast. Really sort of simple website-y type stuff. So, go check that out. Now, the last couple of weeks have been pretty cool. A couple of weeks ago, myself, Johnny Adams, Dave Ferry, Kerry Buchanan, and the great Louis Shelton recorded the sessions for the Gig Life podcast Spotlight Jeff Porcaro episode. Now, if you don't know who Louis Shelton is, go Google that guy, man. You know, he was part of the Wrecking Crew, and he's played with Lionel Richie, and he actually played on the Silk Degrees album for Boz Scaggs with Jeff Porcaro. So it was a real trip talking to him. Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy that episode or episodes. That's enough of my waffle for today. Yeah, sit back and enjoy this episode. So, right, cheers. Getcha. My guest today is Chris Cooke. Originally from New Zealand, now living in Sydney, Cooke is a singer, frontman, guitarist, booking agency owner, band owner and manager. From his early days in Sydney as a front-of-house sound engineer to booking agency manager for bands such as One Hit Wonders, Jellybean Jam and Seattle Sound, to tour manager for Elton Jack, a tribute to Elton John, and he was also co-founder of the Sydney juggernaut band FunkStar, whose lineup over the years has included a host of Australia's finest singers and musicians, with a bunch of them having actually been guests on this podcast. These days, Cooke stays busy with his bands The Chosen Few and also the Australian Trilogy Show. Now, a few years ago, Chris became very ill and required a couple of emergency surgeries, which resulted in a couple of years of serious health issues, months in hospital. But during the times he was out of hospital, he was up on the stage giving it his all, and you would never have known. He's fully recovered now, which is great news. So glad to be able to sit down with Cooke and talk about his remarkable story, the highs, the lows, the important things in life. So really inspiring stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Chris Cooke. Cheers. All right, I think we're rolling. Chris Cooke.
I think we're rolling.
Cooke, how are you, man?
Good, bro.
Yeah, nice.
I've made it.
You've made it, man. Thanks for coming out to my studio.
Thank you for having me, mate. Pleasure.
Been looking forward to meeting you. And
Likewise.
Yeah,
You do a great job.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
So before we sort of dig into the nuts and bolts of things, the couple of things, or the few things that you're currently involved in is The Chosen Few.
Yep.
Which is one of your bands.
Yep.
The Australian
one of the cover bands.
Yep. And Australian Trilogy Show.
The Trilogy Show Concepts, which is Australian Trilogy is the one that's been rolling for the last year or two.
Yep.
Tribute, yeah.
Yep. And you also have your own agency.
Well, yeah. Little boutique agency that I've had running for the last sort of 10 years since I left Southbeat, one of the other sort of agencies that were running covers for years.
Yep. Still going too? Southbeat still going?
Yeah, they're still going. Yeah, they're doing the thing. Yeah, yeah.
So how did the Chosen Few thing come about? Or do we need to delve back?
No. I mean, basically, I'd stopped playing for about 5 or 6 years. whilst I was at Southbeat, I was still playing there and managing bands and booking bands and it was pretty full on there for many years and
this is back in the heyday too.
Yeah, well, this is 95, right? And I think I left there 2006, 2007, something like that.
I played in a couple of early Southbeat bands.
Yeah.
Circus Animals called Chisel Show.
Okay, yeah, I remember them. Yep, absolutely.
I think Harding was the...
Harding might have been, or Dale, actually. Dale Jenner might have been the agent for that.
Maybe you're right,
yeah.
And the other one was the A-Team.
Oh,
with Clay.
With Clay. Yeah. Okay, I remember all that. Yeah. Well, I was, initially doing a lot of the tribute bands, booking all them, but then I was the agent One Hit Wonders agent and Jellybean Jam's agent with Andy Karyophilus there. Did a thing called Retromania, which was a 80s concept there. We did that for 4 years. We did, we ended up doing something like 800 shows with that band over a short period, which was great. So I had a roster of 15 to 20 odd acts that I was responsible for, and the agency at that time had, we probably had about 70, 80 bands. There's a lot of acts there we had there, and probably 40, 50 venues back in the heyday when there were a lot more venues, obviously, you know. So I actually. I was playing and being an agent and managing bands and put a few bands together, FunkStar being one of them, which became a bit of a monster in its own right. And then I ended up just... I lost my parents during that time. They both sort of died in a short space of time, and I kind of lost my mojo a bit for a while, and I ended up leaving the agency and sort of...
Sorry, were your mum and dad still in New Zealand?
Yeah. And I kind of, just sort of... had to take a bit of a sideways step, and I just took a couple of bands that I owned home and just sort of bowed out for a little while. And I actually stopped playing. I was just basically being the agent and managing and stuff. And I stopped playing, stopped performing. So for probably 6 years. And then 2013, I just sort of woke up one day singing and just thought, well, I better do something about this. And so it was like, pick up the bat phone and call the call the old boys back and get them involved and put a band together and we did and kind of got off and running again with that, and which that keeps them busy. I'm still doing solo stuff and duos and whatever there is, you just go and do the gigs, and the Chosen Few is something that's busy when it wants to be, and then we do the other shows around all that sort of stuff and. That's where all that kind of spawned from. Initially, that was with Mark Marriott, drummer, Footy Show house band, and from the Nevilles, the Footy Show band, the Nevilles. Yeah. So I had him in the chair for a while doing that, which was a good thing. And my mate Joe, who's still with me today with that band and with the Trilogy Show and the bass player. And then a bunch of everybody. Dave Schleishman was drumming with us for a while there. Schleishy, cool. Yeah. And
he's on to a thing now.
He's on a great thing.
Man, they're killing it with
absolutely.
That 80s show.
Oh, you can't go wrong with that stuff. Literally can't go wrong.
Yeah. I was saying to him, I mentioned something to him a while back, and I said, look, I noticed there's a few of those 80s shows starting to sort of copy or do their own thing, but he says, we got the special ingredients, he says.
Yeah. Well, they've got good support, good management and backing, and they've spent money on it, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And they've done well.
And what's great about their thing too is they really focus on their social media as well.
Absolutely.
The content.
You have to.
Showing pictures of that really old 80s memorabilia stuff and little shots of movies and stuff, and you get real nostalgic.
It engages.
You want to go and watch an 80s show.
Absolutely,
it's fantastic.
And you want to dress up and do the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, we're finding that even with Australian Trilogy. It's which is Oil's, Guru's, Credit House, a little bit of Split Ends, which people get a bit annoyed about because it's not Australian.
It's all good.
But we get the same thing. People are like, it's taking us back to the 80s, and we play a lot around the Shire and
right.
Well, we play everywhere, but the Shire seems to be a little bit of a stomping ground for us. And
right,
everyone...
So just talking about the Shire. So apart from the Carrying Bar,
yep,
and there's the bowling club there, and what other venues?
Well,
sort of got there in the
Guy
Shire?
Meir Hotel.
Oh, the Guy Meir Hotel.
We play at the Cronulla Golf Club.
Right.
And we do the Brass Monkey every so often, which is a great intimate room, as you probably know. And, we've sold that out a few times, which, it's not really hard to do when it's such a small room. But, you've got to have the right sort of show for it. We're actually doing New Year's Eve there.
This year?
Coming up this year.
Oh, great.
Yeah. There's still, there's Menai and there's, there's still a few of the hotels doing stuff, but there's Cronulla. The Cronulla hub is actually pretty good for entertainment.
Yep.
There's all sorts of stuff going on. I mean, Northies, it's still Northies is what it is.
Yep.
It's still got 3 or 4 nights a week of solos, duos going on in there, and they've got the DJ in the club there, and there's plenty going on down
and
that
El
part of the
Sol
world.
as well.
I'm pretty sure that's
still going.
That's still doing what it does. Yeah. So it's
awesome.
It's happy down there.
Cool, man. All right, man. Let's throw back to the beginning. Right. So you're born in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Yep.
born in Auckland. Yeah,
Born in Auckland. Yep. And then you were there till you were 1.
Yeah,
Good times.
Yeah, good times. Yeah, I remember it well.
Good gaga, and then you're out of there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember all those mornings sucking on Buzz Bars. That's right.
Oh,
so
where are my Mellow Puffs, by the way?
I know, right?
What?
I was thinking of bringing all that stuff, and what did I do? Nothing.
I think I told you not to.
we could have shared a can of L&P.
Yeah, sweet.
So my dad moved he got transferred with his job down to Wellington. So I moved. I sort of did my early childhood down there, and then I became a drummer. We were just chatting upstairs about that. And funnily enough, we've established you and I both had the same drum tutor.
Yeah, right. Mr. Norman Gadd.
Gadd.
From the Norman Gadd. What he used to call us?
I can't remember what it was.
Percussion studio.
Percussion studio.
Yeah.
He was one of the lead percussionists with the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. Yeah.
30 odd years, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know whether he's even still around.
No, he died.
Okay,
2012.
Right. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, yeah, you obviously looked that up.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah. Well, I've always been fascinated where my old teachers are up to, and I actually linked up with another one of my old teachers who I'm chatting to in a few weeks.
Yep.
Lance Phillip, his name is. He's from Wellington as well.
Okay, right.
He used to travel up from Wellington to Masterton once a week and teach me at school.
Right.
So we've just reconnected now. So he's going to be on the
Small
show.
world.
Soon.
Oh, great. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So we're talking a little bit about Norman.
Yeah.
He was a hard ass man. He was a taskmaster. I was there for probably 12 months.
Yep.
And like we were saying, never got to sit in his drum kit.
No, we just looked at it and went, just want to get and hit that kick drum once just to feel it. Yeah.
And I remember that drum kit it was an old Remo drum kit, and it was like veneer finish.
Yep.
Sabian sound control cymbals.
Yeah, real deal stuff.
They're always there to hit, and you just stand at my snare drum while he sat down there in his little...
Yeah, look and drool. Yeah, looking and drooling at it. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
Your left hand's a little weak. You haven't been practicing.
Well, that was it. We'd walk in with our practice pads, and it would be, paradiddles and 4-stroke roughs.
That's it.
Read those beats. Yeah.
But the one thing I got was I did learn all the rudiments.
Yeah, it was very good.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and like I was saying to you, I was probably 14, 15, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to practice. I used to, because we used to drive. My dad used to, after work, we used to drive from Masterton to Johnsonville, which is probably about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes on a Tuesday night, and Dad would just either sit in the car or go around up to a mate's place while I was in there, and God knows how much it was costing them. But we would come home and I wouldn't really practice, because at that age you just want to.
You just want to
with my
bash.
friends
Exactly.
and just smack the drums.
That's right. Yeah. So I played drums for a little while, and school bands and all that sort of stuff. And
What was your musical influences? What were you listening to?
Oh, back then, well, God, this is Fleetwood Mac and
cool.
Tom Petty, and I was a big lover of all the Aussie bands back then, even but still a lot of the rock and roll stuff. My dad was my dad was a guitar player. He was in a band called the Del Rios.
Yeah.
Back in the day there, but playing around Auckland. So it was all that kind of rock and roll stuff that was always played in our household. And he used to play alongside, Ray Columbus and the Invaders and, all that sort of cool stuff. So, yeah, an array of different stuff. But when we moved to Auckland and, again, school bands and whatever, and I was still playing.
Still playing drums?
Still playing drums, yeah. But I would always have a sing, right? I could fudge my way through on guitar and whatever, but I was the drummer. And then got involved with a band, and I met a guy when I had a day job, and I was working there, and they were from West Auckland, and they'd already done some recording stuff with their original band, and so I got playing with them, and we did demos and all that sort of stuff, and I'd play drums on the demos, and then nothing came from it. Then out of the blue, we got a deal with Pagan Records to do a single, and we didn't have a singer, so I ended up doing the recording for the single and playing drums, and then all of a sudden, here's me, in front of the mic singing the tracks. And I sort of became, that was my transition into becoming sort of a singer from there.
Right.
And we did a good amount of shows around the country and did some good supports with, Hello Sailor and Dave McCartney from the Pink Flamingos and all those sorts of acts, and a little bit of airplay with BFM back then, if you remember BFM in Auckland there, and what was it called, 2ZM, which was like that Triple M network back then.
Yep.
So this is early mid '80s, I guess. So I'd always played drums, but then I kind of transitioned away from it.
Right,
and
okay,
it's very rare that I'll play now unless I like to get a sound check in. Sometimes I'll jump on whoever's playing with us as kit and maybe have a little.
Cool.
Yeah,
it's good having that. That skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I kind of miss it. It's like it's always that power you feel when you feel that kit kick in.
Yeah.
Especially through a good PA system. There's nothing like it, right?
That's it. But then there's the lug.
Oh, no, bugger that.
Put your guitar in a bag and walk away.
Yeah. Well, apparently. Yeah. He says while in the back of his car right now is half a PA system for a solo.
Oh, right. Okay,
this afternoon. But
fair enough.
Totally. Yeah.
So when you decided to be a singer, did you try and sing and play drums at the same time, or was the decision made to...
Yeah, I'd done a bit of that, a bit of backing vocals, but not leading the song.
Once you started singing with that was it?
That was it. I'd go out the front then, and we had drummers, so we got a drummer in, and when we played live, I'd just front it, so that kind of I became a frontman. That was it. I'd front everything I did from then on in, and then even with the chosen few, I could always play some guitar and stuff, but even when that whole lineup changed, I realised, instead of getting another guitar player, and I'll be the guitarist. So I've worked pretty hard at sort of being able to do that now, and I wouldn't say I'm a fantastic guitar player, but I'm absolutely, I'm good enough to do what I need to do, and
you're doing a lot of it. So
absolutely, doing all of it. Yeah, absolutely, fantastic. Totally. So that's always good, being able to do it all, and certainly a bit more cost effective as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah.
So okay, so when did this So what was the name of the band that you got the deal with to do the single?
So before I joined, as I joined, they were called Chinese Eyes.
Yep.
Which is a bit of a play on words, and actually became the Lonesome Cowboys.
Okay.
Is what the band actually was called.
Mm-hmm.
Which people used to think, you're a country band, and it's like, well, we weren't a country band at all.
That's how it sounded to me.
Yeah, totally. Well, it was actually. I think it was from an Andy Warhol movie,
right.
From what I remember. So there was something arty around it, but I think that got missed on a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
But that's what that was called. And then I ended up moving to Perth and left that band, and I went and did a degree in audio engineering at SAE in Perth there. And
okay, so let's stop there for a second.
Yeah.
So the reason for leaving New Zealand was to go and do that degree in Perth?
Well,
was it just time
part
to
of
get
it? Well, it was time to get out. I'd always aspired to kind of get out of that, comfort sort of zone of just playing around in Auckland. And I was always like a big fan of Australia, and I'd been here a few times. I had some family here.
Yep.
And a girlfriend that I was seeing at the time, she was doing a BA in musical theatre at the Western Australian Performing Arts Academy in Perth. And so I thought, I'll move over with, to her, and while I'm there, I'll do the degree at SAE.
Right.
And
for audio engineering.
Yeah. And so whilst
that's studio in front of house stuff?
Well, no, it was very little live stuff. It was all studio stuff. Yeah, awesome. All studio stuff back then. And this was all still back in the days of
analog.
It was all analog.
All tape. Yeah.
Well, digital was there, but it was tape.
Yeah.
It was tape. I remember even doing the exam. You're cutting up tape and splicing it together. Awesome. Like it was back in those days. Did a bit of stuff with MIDI, and there was certainly no Pro Tools back then. It was, so that was Perth, and then actually ended up meeting a guy who actually was one of the original bass players with One Hit Wonders, a guy called Zach Wilson, and he was in Perth, and he'd worked at Southbeat for a few years, and he ended up in Perth, and he was did an ad for looking for a singer for a 70s disco band, which I answered the ad to, and so basically became the singer in that show band.
Still in Perth?
In Perth, yeah. Wigs and flares and the whole shebang. And he had was starting a little agency, and they'd tour some bands over from the eastern states and that sort of stuff. So I started working with him, and we put a roster of acts together, and all sorts of different stuff. Some tribute bands, just party bands, whatever. And so that was my little introduction into the world of booking and becoming sort of agent aware. So I'd had all that going on, and then as I said, the girl I was seeing at the time, she was an actor, and she'd got an agent in Sydney. So we were either going to go to Sydney or Melbourne, and didn't really bother me. I'd done my SAE course, and that had all finished up.
How long was that for?
I think it was only. It was 12 months. It was only a 12 months. It's only short.
Right.
But you go 2 days a week.
Yep.
And so I was doing that and working with Zach's agency, and then playing and all the rest of it. So anyway, we moved to Sydney, and I'd started doing some live sound here, and knew of Southbeat back then because of obviously the guy in Perth, and contacted them, but there was sort of nothing much going on. So, but I ended up doing a lot of live sound for a lot of the Southbeat bands.
Right. So how did you get that?
I think I just
rocked up with your
ads. There were some ads for some people. A guy called Tony Jex was running PAs, and I'd go and do the pick up rigs and all that sort of stuff. And a guy called John Perez. I don't know whether you remember him from years ago. Yeah. So he was Jellybean Jam's front of house guy for a long time. Anyway, he'd have 2 or 3 trucks and rigs and big gear and stuff, and you'd go and do one man loads. And I remember getting, I didn't even have a car back then. I'd get the, train into the city from Marrickville or whatever, and then get a bus from the city to La Perouse, where he had his house and the warehouse with trucks, and load the truck, and then go to bloody Birkenhead Tavern or wherever, Wentworthville Leagues or wherever you'd take your rigs and do the bands and sweat your ass off doing all of that, and then load it all back in.
When the gear was really heavy.
Big heavy gear, yeah. And then you drive it all home back to his place at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then pretty much call a cab, and you spend half your money that you just made that night on a cab to get home. And
so how was the money?
Oh, God, I can't even remember now.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember. It wasn't a lot. You wouldn't get a lot. Maybe you'd get $150 to operate, something like that. Don't know. You got me thinking now. What was I thinking? But we do it all, right? We do all that. Did all that. Anyway, so then I transitioned. There was a position came up at Southbeat. One of the other agents left there, and a lovely gentleman called Paul McGovern, who'd been there with Southbeat for many years. He moved on, and I kind of picked up from him and started booking all sorts of bands there, and ended up being there for 12 years.
Right.
Became the agency manager there for the last few years of that, and was great. Right. It was a great grounding. Got a lot of contacts. I'm still able to do what I do now, which is based a lot on all that network that I forged over those years, and been fortunate enough to do what I did, and still do what I do now. A lot of it's due to that. So, pretty fortunate.
So what made you think that you could be an agent? I phrased that wrong. It made me sound like, who the fuck do you think you were? No,
I still don't know. I have no idea. Oh,
going from playing in bands and then, doing front of house sound.
Doing it all, I guess. I mean,
right.
I think there's always this weird scenario where a lot of musos go, agents, they don't know what they're doing, and they, it used to be that whole thing, they're just failed musicians. And it's like, well, I was actually a musician sort of always. And there certainly were times where I wasn't, and I really had the agent hat on firmly, and I was managing and, running a lot of different acts and all the rest of it. But always a musician. So I think having that whole scope of knowledge and coming from all angles, and having enough experience from being, having to do the blood, sweat and tears as a musician, but also being on the other side of the fence.
Thinking I can do a fucking good job at this.
Well...
we'll give it a crack anyway, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, I never really looked at myself as becoming an agent. It just was something that was offered to me, and I'd had enough foots in the door that I thought, okay, I'll do this.
Yeah. Cool.
And then, of course, stuff spawns from all of that, and you gain confidence. It's hard. I remember the first couple of weeks sitting in that chair as an agent, and one of the other partners in Southbeat was in his office, and he kept, he'd be cracking that whip. Here's your call list. Yeah, you got to tick off your calls, and you got to call all these venues and hustle and hustle and hustle.
Yeah, right.
And that's a hard thing to click into. Sales, sales.
Sales, yeah.
It's sales.
Yeah, we were talking about that before.
Exactly.
It's not something I can do.
No, and I could do it, and I did it, but it never really sat that comfortable with me, and I still have to do it, today.
Of course.
You got to sell what you do. But anyway, I mean, I feel like I've come full circle with that a little bit, because as much as I still have my little boutique agency and a handful of acts, and primarily me performing in the shows that I do is most of the income I'm doing now.
Yep.
There's a bunch of other stuff annually, some corporate clients, and there's a few things that I'll do, and there's a few other bands and stuff I'll look after and whatever. But ideally, it's me playing, and I've simplified it now. When you're working for yourself, you can simplify it.
Yeah.
I think the whole being in a big agency and you're responsible for so much. It's quite a unique person that can cope with that, and I did do it, but I definitely got burnt out after many years.
All right. So who were some of the bands you were looking after, and what were those what were the challenges?
Well,
apart from having to tick off your
call list. Yeah. Well, you're dealing with a lot of competitors. There was back then. They're still around today. There's the Sphere organisation. There's Peak Promotions. There's still a lot of these agencies still out and about doing what they do. But you're competing. You've got a big roster of acts, and you've got other agencies with big roster of acts too, and you're all trying compete for dates. And the big thing back then was venues. You know, if you had a lot of venues, well, then, you know, you had a lot of power.
Right. But with that power would be pressure to maintain those venues.
Well,
and especially if you're looking after so many other things, your eyes aren't always on.
Well, this is true.
And then people would just come in the back door and you're gone, you know?
Well, that will never change.
Yeah, right.
That's going to always be there, and that's I think just business.
Right.
But you're right. You got to have good acts. You got to service the venues. You got to be all things to all parts of it.
Yeah.
Which I think Southbeat as an agency were, and we were good at. Back then, we were good at putting shows together, and you know, so you had managed concepts and you know, a lot of good players and good promotional material. And again, even this is before Facebook days, and this is when a lot of stuff was still hard copy. I mean, we'd do mail outs by the hundreds of printed bios and cassettes still. I remember and then also
having to ring in your gig guides as well, like
ring them up or fax them through to the Daily Telegraph and cross
or drum media.
You
open drum media and
that's Well, the drum media was pretty much the Bible for an agent.
Yep.
So you'd sit there with the drum media with your highlighter pen.
Yeah, well, that's how I got into Circus Animals called Chisel Show.
There you go.
I just saw it because I was playing in a original band.
Yep.
And I just saw this ad.
Yep.
And I think it said Cold Chisel Show, at the time I probably only knew K-San.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So I rang up and booked the time for this audition, and then just woodshed. I don't know how many songs.
Yep.
And went in there and played it, and got the gig, and it was awesome. Man.
But see, there's the ads. You see, there was those back 2 pages of the drum media where it's like I said, it was the Bible go-to for anything going on.
Yep.
And then of course, you know, like I said, with the gig guides, you'd send the gig guides in, and then you'd wait there and go, well, is it going to get in the gig guides? You know?
Oh, right.
Because it was a lottery a lot of the time.
Oh, if your gigs got into the gig?
Yeah. Shit. Now, of course, we would have. I mean, even with me, with some of the acts that I owned and managed at the time, we'd spend a fair bit of money annually on ads, like gig ads, or here's the next run of shows for this band or this band, or so they'd kind of favour you a little bit if you'd spent money, because they were free listings. They were all free listings.
It used to. And with you saying that, I do remember like seeing quite often it was the same. Bands.
And I mean the agencies would, I think they'd kind of favour those because it was run right. Instead of them getting 20 or 30 or 100 bands every week send 1 gig in or 2 gigs in, an agency sending a printed out list of 300 gigs.
Yep.
So they just pretty much cut and pasting that, I guess, or maybe they were data entry typing them. I don't know how they did it back then, but I mean nowadays, well, as we know, it's a lot more quicker and simpler to do everything like that. You know?
That's it.
Facebook's its own agency,
it is,
right?
Isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, but it's getting harder and harder to get your stuff seen on Facebook.
Getting the traction, much
without having to pay. You know, they got those algorithms sorted, man.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's proven. You know, I mean, I'll do a bit of that for some of our shows, and you time them and you structure them, and you have the content, and you get your right demographic and your locations, and it does. It works. Yeah, yeah. But you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's the hard thing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now, you got a bit ill a few years back. Do you want to talk about that?
I did. Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. No problem.
Sorry, I had to ask because
thank you.
I've asked people before, and they started talking about it, and then they've said, "No, I don't want to talk about it." So
more than happy to share all that. It was a pretty horrific kind of couple of years of some plumbing issues. And a couple of near-death experiences and some pretty severe surgeries, and but I got out of hospital for the last time February last year, and I had a few times before that with many weeks in hospital, and it was definitely a struggle. don't know, this, a lot of people might not kind of understand a lot of this, but I actually ended up having what they call an ileostomy bag. You've heard of people having colostomies, and where you got to have your bowel redirected for a period of time. Well, that's what happened to me. I actually ended up having a perforation, and it required these emergency surgeries. And so I had this ileostomy for, ended up being nearly 2 years. And the first time around on that, you normally have that for 6 months, and they go and they do what they call a reversal surgery of that, where while everything downstairs is healing, you have this bag for 6 months minimum, and they go in and they reattach, and off you go again. And so the first 6 months was getting used to that life, and I obviously had recovery on that, but I went back to performing.
Oh yeah, okay, good,
yeah,
awesome.
Which was great, yeah, and certainly an adjustment, and very freaky, and I was always a pretty kind of private person, and for me to get on stage with that apparatus and be strapped in and
So, I know about. I mean, I've worked with a guy who just got through a bout of bowel cancer.
Yeah.
And he had a colostomy bag.
Yeah.
You couldn't see it.
Yeah, no. Well, you can't. Yeah. Same thing.
Oh, same thing. Okay, right. Because when you said getting used to, I just imagine you standing there with a guitar with this.
No, no.
Something hanging off. Oh,
it's exactly the same
okay,
as it's the other. It's the colostomy is for your lower bowel,
right,
your large bowel. The ileostomy is for your small bowel, and it's on the other side. So it sits on the side where your guitar would sit if you're a normal sided guitar player. And it attaches to you, and that's how you sort of deal with all of that. But
I understand.
But getting used to actually performing with that, I wouldn't eat on show days. I'd just basically have vitamin Bs and drink a lot of fluids, and hope to God I wouldn't get a leak during the show, which actually never happened, which I was would always be incredibly paranoid about. So that was a pretty trying time. The guys around me with the Australian Trilogy Show were amazing during that, and I had a lot of help. And my partner at the time, she was an enormous help. She'd drive me to shows. She'd help me lug the gear. She'd plug in pedal boards for me because it was hard for me to bend over, and just. But as soon as the lights would go on and the show would start, a punter would have no idea. You just turn it on, you click into performance mode, and off you go. The build up to all of that show day stuff would be a bit weird for me, and I'd lose the plot a few times, and what am I doing? Obviously I'd work. I was working. I had to bring in the money. That's what that was, and I think I'm grateful that I did that. I was grateful to myself that I did that, because I think if I was just to sit at home and do nothing, or just be the agent and book and whatever, I would have gone insane with it. But so the first 6 months, went in after that and had what they call the reversal surgery of that, and that was okay. But actually, 10 days later, it failed. The reversal join of the bowel actually failed.
Fuck.
So had to go and have another open surgery, and they had to do the same thing again. So I had to go around for another time with this bag, and that was like,
what's the headspace there?
Can't
do this again.
Can't do it again. But had a lot longer recovery. The second time around was a lot more rough than the first time, and just the way that the whole ileostomy was not as good as the first time around. So it's a lot more of a struggle. But you get back up on that horse, and you go and do your shows, and a bit more adjustment and whatever. But I kind of got through that, and was just always focused forward, because a lot of people go through those issues and they'll lose faith. And when it comes to plumbing stuff, bowel, whatever, it's, unless you've experienced it, it's very, very hard to comprehend how difficult it actually is. Just personally, it's difficult to talk about. There's not a lot of support around. You get a bit of support from the therapists at the hospital and bits and pieces, but mine wasn't cancer, and touch wood, and very, very glad that and lucky that it wasn't a cancer related issue.
Right.
Was a thing called diverticular. So mine was over many years. I had some issues with that, and then one day the part that had the issues decided to rupture.
Fuck.
So if you've got any of those, all of my advice to anyone. This is all supposed to be about music, but we've gone into other sides.
The reason I have asked and we're talking about it, and you've basically said it, is the fact that you still played.
Absolutely.
And the
show must go on.
And the show must go on.
Yeah.
And for 95% of the punters out there that are watching you play have no idea.
No.
And
no.
And people will be quick to judge if someone is to make a mistake on stage. But you really don't know what that person's going through at that time.
You have no idea, and this is what ended up.
And this is with everybody.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So good on you for talking about it. I appreciate it.
Well, again, it's like I've got nothing to hide on that, and it's actually empowering for me now to actually discuss it, and awesome. and actually. I know there's other people that have had issues or have issues or may have issues in their future. Regardless of what that might be. And I think I'm trying to say is that the show will go on.
Yeah.
And you've got to have faith in yourself. And these things are sent to try us. So you've got a choice.
Yep.
Take it on and focus forward.
Yep.
Take a deep breath and get on that horse and keep going. Or you don't. Now, we all know what happens if you don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I had certainly many times of wanting to give it all up and just stay in my room. And I did have to retreat for a number of weeks before the second surgery because I just couldn't physically do it anymore. I just was getting too tired.
Right.
And now, a funny story how that all came to be is we were playing at the Gaimea Hotel with the Australian Trilogy Show, and Mark Marriott, who I mentioned before, the drummer and great friend, he after that show, I remember we loaded out and he said, "Oh, look, before you go, I just wanted to see you for a second." So I'm out of the car and, sort of my partner at the time, she'd packed the car and next minute Mark comes up and he kind of goes, "Look, hey," and all the other boys in the band there are with him. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I was waiting for the whole, "Oh, look, we're all leaving. We can't do the show. We're not going to do the show. We don't want to do it anymore. You're shit."
Oh, right.
Like literally, right? Yeah. And it was nothing like that at all. It was purely Mark going, "Look," and he was speaking for himself, but it was pretty much what the other guys were feeling too. Is that he just said, "Look, Cookie, we can't watch you suffer anymore." And like you said, on stage, no one would have any idea. I'd have a little bit of restricted movement sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'd have to hold my guitar out away from my side.
Which probably looked fucking cool.
It looked it was, I tell you what, I got cramp. I got a big cramp. And of course, I'd go from electric guitar to acoustic. Now, acoustic guitar sitting on top of this thing, the vibrations was like, well, that puts another whole spin on vibrator. It's very weird and not in a good way, So... anyway, Mark said, "Look, I just can't watch you do it anymore. So I'm stopping." And I kind of broke down and and then I realised what he's saying. And I said, "Thank you." Because what that said to me is, it's time to stop.
Yeah.
And just let the next, and that was, I think, 7 or 8 weeks before I had to go in for this next surgery. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty much the tap on the shoulder, just down tools, let yourself get right and go into this next phase of surgeries in the best condition you can be. Because I was going to hit the wall. And I was going to hit the wall big time. So even today, I every time I see Mark, it's like, well, God, mate, you kind of...
saved my life.
You saved it. You saved a lot of self-destruction and all the rest of it. So that was that. And then went in for the next surgery and... There was another open cut surgery. A lot of the other ones, they can do laparoscopic, but it was, so I've been opened up 3-4 times and it's, they did that. And then the crazy story is that it actually failed again.
Oh, fuck, man.
But only failed in a sense that the join of the bowel had just a slight diversion, slight little leak. And they weren't going to operate again. So it was pretty much nil by mouth for 60 days. I had a feeding tube. They put a line in your arm. It feeds you this liquid, and it's like a high protein liquid, and to keep you alive. But you couldn't even drink water. So 55, 56 days nil by mouth, and then it was literally we did CT scan after CT scan and just check how things are going. And then my surgeon said, "Look, we're just going to get you eating, and we'll see what happens." It was one of those ones. Because the last thing they wanted to do was go back and open me up and go round again with this damn thing. So subsequently, it was all fine in the end. I got out of hospital on the 1st of February last year for the last time and took it real easy, but got back to gigging.
Yeah.
Was terrified to eat for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
I can imagine.
Kept thinking that it was all going to go wrong again. Lost a lot of weight. And then went the other way a bit, kind of went, oh, no, this is all good. So I started to go, I'm going to eat bloody everything and bugger it,
Yeah.
And long story short, I'm good now. Everything's working the way it should.
Awesome.
And it's kind of slowly becoming my past rather than something that's been holding me back from doing a lot of things. And I said last year when I got out of hospital, I'm going to do everything I want to do as far as music now. And, I did a few little shows of stuff I've always wanted to do, and we've carried on with the trilogy shows and, the Chosen Few, whatever. And I got a little original thing I'm going to do. I got some songs I need to record, and, I've got some of that stuff to get off my chest as well. So that's what I'm doing as well at the moment. And that's that phase over, right?
Awesome, yeah.
There you go. I made it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Made it again.
Congratulations.
Thank you, mate. Thank you very much.
How long until you started playing again?
So after that last one, well, it was a little while.
Yep.
And, of course, even during that, you're projecting forward on what supposedly was to be the perfect world where you know when your surgery is going to be. You go, okay, I'm going to do 6-7 weeks recovery. I'll book dates,
Oh, right.
for up to, how booking world works. It's
Right.
6 months, 8 months, 12 months in advance. So I'd always go, okay, well,
and that's a good positive way of thinking too.
Well, yeah,
instead of
kept
going,
your
there's going to be something wrong, I better not do it.
Yeah. But I always went, I'll do the bookings and blocks, and I'll give me something to work towards, right?
Cool. Awesome.
And I would. I remember just going, okay, well, I've got to be ready for here.
Yep.
There was a period when some of the stuff went pear-shaped that I had to cancel dates, and yeah, absolutely, you just can't do them. You've got to cancel them. But I'd always gone, okay, well, so I think so out of the February, and I think so March, April. I think maybe 7 weeks later, 8 weeks later, I did the first gig back.
Yep.
And was still a bit weak, and I had to keep a brace, like a Velcro brace around my gut, just to keep me supported. And
okay.
but off and running, and you just sort of take it easy and build your strength up, and again, performance is amazing mindset in itself, right?
Yep.
Just the fact of getting on stage and doing what we do and getting in front of people is an amazing process in itself. But when you've come through an illness and that almost becomes a part of your healing, and like I said, you're focusing forward to that. And like I said, if I didn't have that in place and I didn't have those dates there to work towards, things might have been might be a bit different, So it didn't take a long time. Took as much time as it needed for me to feel good enough to get up and do it. But I still had to sort of take it easy, and I still take it easy to a point now. Although when I say take it easy to a point, well, it's not stopping me doing anything.
Right.
Anyone that's had any abdominal surgeries or any surgeries, you're wary of that part of your body.
Sure.
And there's still discomfort and pain. I get up in the morning and go, oh, yeah, that's where those slices down the gut were.
Yeah, right.
You still feel it,
Yeah.
But, we're not 21 anymore, Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about FunkStar.
Yeah.
Right. So you had a bit of a list of who's in that band, eh?
Oh,
and a few of those people I've had on the show.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Yeah. Well, a lot of drummers, I think, went through. So you've probably had, even Dario and bass player Dario.
Haven't spoken to Dario.
Yeah, speak to Dario. He's got mate, he's an absolute legend. He'll keep you busy with his long list of career highlights. Sure. My God.
Yeah.
But
Diana was on the show.
Diana Rivers did a bunch of dates with FunkStar during the period. Tiffany Wood from Bardot was part of the lineups, because it was became a multi-lineup kind of corporate cover show.
Right.
We still play
whoever was available type thing.
Well, yeah, but it became, this was an act that we got it to the stage where it would do 3 functions on a Saturday night. There'd be FunkStar 1, FunkStar 2, FunkStar 3.
Right.
All high quality, high quality people and pretty generic kind of show and set list.
Right.
A lot of different front guys and girls. Marty Worrell was one of the guys that would do a lot of the dates. Marty was one of the Australian Idols from back in the day, one of the top 10 guys.
Right.
Diana Rivers, as I said. Mm-hmm. Andre Kamen was the original male singer with that band, and absolute powerhouse Andre. And he's
doing the Sexy Sunday Jam now, isn't he?
Well, he's doing all sorts of
stuff. Things,
right. All sorts of stuff. And he's still a musician and still singing and fronting, but he's diverse. He's sort of doing all sorts of things with social media and well, from what I perceive, kind of life coaching and empowerment and healthy living and all that sort of stuff. So he was the original sort of lead singer with that band, and a guy called Raymond Sheck was the guitarist, and George X, bass player, and a drummer, James Paul. You know James?
I don't know James.
Okay, James Paul, yeah.
Dave Ferry?
Dave Ferry did a bunch of dates, Dave.
Yeah.
Even I think Dave Schlichman did some dates at the time. Mm-hmm. Another guy called Ephraim. Ephraim. Yeah. Look, literally everybody.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Awesome. It was there'd be and it was a 6-piece lineup. So there'd be 18 people working in that brand on a Saturday night across 3 different events and 3 lineups. And Virginia Lilly. Mm-hmm. Virginia was one of the girl singers that was doing a lot of those dates during that period.
So with that, having the FunkStar 1, 2, 3, were the people that were booking the bands or booking FunkStar, did they realise that there was a
Absolutely.
Right, so would they ask for a particular lineup?
They would.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So it got, and that's the way we kind of marketed it. The idea was that, well, we were getting so many inquiries for that band and brand that we couldn't field enough. We couldn't fill them all. So and primarily the corporate stuff. So we just basically made it that you could pick and pack your own lineups to a point. There was certain clients, corporate event producers that liked certain lineups. They liked the Andre and Tiffany lineup, or they liked, as far as the front people. I mean, the band themselves were the band. That wasn't really the deal breaker. It was more about the front people. Right? I mean, it just is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Not to take anything away from the amazing, all the musicians that were part of the lineups. Mm-hmm. But there was that, you can kind of design your own lineup.
Right.
A lot of the time it didn't matter. A lot of the time it wasn't a request. It was just, the brand was strong enough, the quality was strong enough, and myself and Ray and the guys that were part of it in sort of them on stage and in sort of behind the scenes with it as well. We're always pretty pretty clear on the fact that it's got to be high quality. It's got to, it's got to be like a non-stop show, meaning there's a lot of segues and it's not just song after song. It's right. Pretty much a high energy dance, covers rock, pop, dance.
Medleys,
funk. Well, medleys, but not medleys in the sense of what you might think a medley is, but just stuff that would They'd be in the middle of a song and then that would drop out. Drummer keeps the groove. They build it again.
Okay.
Maybe time change into it. It's just segueing stuff. Clever. They were everyone was so good in the band and they'd always be watching. And Ray was very good Ray Sheck was always very good as a musical director with that sort of stuff. And George. And they had, some of the best players you could get. So the quality and the quality of what they were putting out and the quality of the players just was married together really well, So yeah, that was quite a unique thing for the Sydney market to see a cover band become a multi-lineup brand. And that was like that for probably 10 years, maybe 11 years.
Right.
Yeah. Do
you think that happens much now? I can't think of...
Well, not really. I mean...
I know Sweet As...
Yeah.
Sweet As do it a little bit.
Yeah.
They'll...
Yeah, they're great.
But with them it's basically the same people playing maybe 2 or 3 a night.
Yeah.
But I think the same 2 front people are bouncing between those...
Absolutely.
Those 3 and, they might have a...
Well, it's like all of it. Yeah, there's always a core with these core to the people that are there. There's 2 or 3 people that are, the main sort of whoever's bouncing from lineup to lineup or from whatever they're doing. So it's it works. Yeah, but no, I don't know whether there's anyone kind of that had done what FunkStar had done. I mean, there's a lot of bands that kind of came from that.
Right.
And have gone off and do other things. I mean, FunkStar's still a band that's available today. It's just not. It's. I mean, it's something that if I get an inquiry for it and
you
we still put the line. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But it's not driven, and the supply and demand isn't there. Plus, everyone that's involved in it is
doing other things.
Is so much doing other things.
Yep.
But it's still something.
Yeah. That's cool.
But like everything kind of can run its course and life goes on and whatever. But And I guess, like you said, with these multi-line, even with this trilogy show concept that I came up with, it was not like FunkStar, but in the fact that you have a brand and a concept brand that becomes a multifaceted thing. So the trilogy show can be like, before I got ill, the idea was to run out Australian Trilogy, which was the tribute to the 3 acts I said, and then to do American Trilogy.
Okay.
And that could be... Tom Petty, Eagles, Springsteen, right. 3 tribute to three artists.
Yep.
You could do UK trilogy. Well, there's thousands, and there's thousands of configurations of all of this stuff.
Yeah,
and again, it's more for the club market.
Yeah.
You're
don't give away all your secrets.
Oh,
man.
no. Hey, they're already branded and ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah, come at me, everyone. Come on. Yeah. So that was the idea with that. And I guess like we're saying, where you have a concept brand, but all these other offshoots to it sit under it. Right. So the trilogy show is a business brand.
Yep.
But the concepts under it can be anything.
Awesome.
And configure, as long as the word trilogy, obviously by definition, is 3.
Yeah.
So you've got to have 3 of something.
Yeah, per night.
Could be 3. Yeah. It could be 3 in it. Could be 3 albums. Could be 3... three female singers.
That's very clever.
It could be, could be anything. It could be the movie soundtracks to 3 movies.
Right, clever.
Whatever. The scope is enormous.
Yep.
So, and again, if anyone out there listening wants to be involved in that, got any ideas?
Yeah.
I got millions of them, but you want to do gigs and get involved in it, let me know, because
this episode was brought to you by the
by the Trilogy Show.
Trilogy Show.
Thank you very much. That's all that kind of. That's how all that kind of came about. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, everybody knows about the changing Sydney atmosphere, and the gigs are different, such and such, and gigs are dying off. When you were sick and you came back, sorry, let me just rephrase that. When you got sick, were you consciously thinking, well, the gigs that were there may not be there, and were you trying to keep sort of working at those, or did you just break away and just hope it was there when you got back?
Well, I had to break away, but at the same time, and this is where, a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, you're lucky, mate. You you've got a big network, and you can just pick up the phone and get a gig anywhere. And it's like, I don't get any special treatment. I'm just like everyone else. A gig's a gig, and you're all competing. And one thing I know is that, even with some dates that I had to cancel during that time, mate, the vultures are all flying around, ready to grab anything. They got any wind of a weak. It's like, if there's a weakness, someone's going to come in and grab and capitalise on that, right? Because a gig's a gig, money's money. That's what it comes down to. But momentum is the thing. You got to keep your momentum going. Now, if you go off the radar, and it's the same with social media, you got to keep that content and keep in front of eyeballs So I went, well, I can't be too worried about that. But I did have to get back in and shake the tree again and start pushing and going, hey, I'm not dead. I'm actually still doing what I've always done.
Right.
And I'm available. Here's the dates. Off we go again. So, people that are close to me in agent world and other musicians or whatever, I mean, they know how that all works.
Yep.
And so, I've been looked after to a point, in that people go, yeah, cool, we trust what Cookie does, and he puts a good show on, and he's a pro, whatever. There's no risk. If he says he's sick, he's sick. If he can't do the shows, he can't do the shows. But now he's back. Testament is to, obviously what you can see I do as far as dates and whatever.
Yep.
I'm all right. I'm still working, and I think, like I said, people that know you know that. If people think they can capitalise because they think you've gone to ground, well, good luck. But you know what? I'll be turning up at the gig you just played at next week. Hello, still here. So it's that. Still, it's a dog eat dog world in the industry, right? But momentum. You got to keep that momentum going. And we're all getting older. And there's a new whole world of dance bands, younger demographic bands, R&B stuff, whatever.
There's some
that's a big market, mate.
Players out there too.
Oh hell yeah! These young dudes, mate. There's a lot of great players. Absolutely.
Yep. You performed a bucket list show with a set of Neil Finn material and stuff. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh well, I just I'm a big, being a Kiwi and stuff, and melodically and whatever. I'm a big fan of Neil Finn. I'm a big fan of anything that Split Enz did, and obviously Crowded House and Tim Finn as well. But for some reason, I just had this kind of affinity with Neil and his material, and we do a lot of Crowded House stuff with part of the Australian Trilogy Show, which I enjoy doing. But there was a lot of material that I've always loved, and that doesn't really transcend into the pub sort of audience. Right. A lot of the ballads and a lot of the slower sort of cooler stuff that Neil does, and even some of his solo stuff and whatever. And so I just went, oh look, I want to do that. So we just did sort of 5 or 6 shows earlier this year with that, and it was really just for me. Just I want to sing some of that stuff, so cool. I did.
That's great.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about Neil Finn, what are your thoughts on him and Fleetwood Mac?
Well, I think it's amazing. I think it came out of left field for a lot of people. A lot of people scratch their heads and go, "What?" But it absolutely makes a lot of sense. But a nod to Lindsey Buckingham. Crikey, any time he's left Fleetwood Mac, they have 2 people replace him, 2 guitar players.
Yeah, true.
I mean, he's an absolute phenomenal musician.
Yeah.
And Mike Campbell from Tom Petty's band. I mean, again, perfect picker for that. And I think initially you kind of get your head around, okay, Neil, the more it kind of washed over people, I think there's staunch Fleetwood Mac lovers that are going to go, no.
Yeah.
Us Kiwis, we're going to go, hell yeah, choice, bro. Like that's perfect, And I'm going to go to the show coming up.
Yep.
At the stadium, whatever it is. And can't wait. I just can't wait it's quite surreal to think that, because we still look at, I mean, he's world renowned, but us Kiwis go, little Neil Finn, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm quite interested. And I've watched a little bit of footage, and I think initially the first couple of promo shows that they put out, I thought, his voice maybe, I don't know. But I'm sure now he's got however many shows they've done so far on the world tour. Everything I'm still seeing and hearing, he's just killing it, you know. Mm. And it's quite a unique marriage, right? You know, that Mick Fleetwood and Stevie Nicks went, let's look at Neil Finn, you know. What a great idea.
Of all
Stranger things that happen.
Of all the people, hey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Who else would you... I mean, I suppose there's millions of people you could think of. I can't write this minute, but...
I mean... Yeah, I mean, for me, but I mean, I'm not Fleetwood Mac, obviously, but I don't know. Do you think they'd maybe go with someone a little bit obscure? I don't know.
Well, you look at it, right? I mean, look, so Don't Dream It's Over. So Crowded House, was it number 2? Went to number 2 in America? Or did it actually get to number 1? I can't bloody remember. Anyway, the Americans... You talk to an American today, they'd probably go, who?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, there'd be a bunch of people would go, I remember that, or cool, Neil Finn. Yeah.
I guess I'm just thinking this from this side of the planet.
Well, this is it. Yeah. So I think, you know, as far as the American market, I mean, UK's different, because as you know, Fleetwood Mac's, UK, American, are they? Are they a UK band? Are they an American band, right? And I think, if you're thinking someone more obscure, well, to a lot of the American market, Neil Finn would be obscure.
Right, gotcha.
I would say.
Yeah, true.
To a lot of people. I mean, you know, a lot of people would have other opinions maybe, but I think musically it's a perfect fit. It really is, you know. And Neil's actually quite an underrated guitarist. He's a great player.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, melodically, like just probably... You know, he's written some of the most incredible melodies.
Yep.
And the melodies with Fleetwood Mac, just amazing stuff. You know?
Are they writing though?
I don't know. I don't know. Mm. I thought this was just a big cash cow. Let's go and run it out. And Lindsay doesn't want to do it, so let's. God knows how much they're paying Neil Finn to do it.
Yeah, Lindsay's not happy about it, eh?
Oh, well, you know, what can you do? He'll come back around. You watch.
I'm sure he will. Yeah.
Can't he go out with his own Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah.
Call it something else?
Yeah.
Lindsay Mac?
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the lawyers are all over that already.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, we'll probably never ever know. Eh?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I forgot to mention. We were talking upstairs before we started, and I should have mentioned this a little bit earlier when we were talking about New Zealand. But tell us about your Uncle Weasel. My
Uncle Weasel.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so this is going back into the days of the Maori show bands, and you know, with Howard Morrison and all that sort of stuff. And there was one of the big show bands that came out of New Zealand was called the Quintickies. And my Uncle Weasel was part of that. He was the guitarist with them for many, many years. And so they'd spent a lot of time here in Sydney playing. They played all over that, but they'd play a lot in Hawaii and through Vegas. And he ended up, I think he was living in Vegas until he died, I think. Anyone out there that remembers that era, in either New Zealand or here in Australia. They spent a lot of time at the Cross playing back in the day. And I mean, I was only a young fella. I can hardly remember him, but my family would always talk about my Uncle Weasel. And you'll have a look. There's a couple of clips online of the Quintickies, and they'd be part of the movies. There were those black and white movies that Howard Morrison was acting in back in the day, right. and the Quintickies were part of those movies, and they'd do a lot of tricks. They were the trick band, you know. You'd have the guitar player or two guitar players and the bass player in a line, and they'd all be playing. They'd all have hands over their instruments, playing each other's neck, like playing the licks.
Yeah.
You'd have the drummer doing stick flicks and standing up and walking around the kits, and a lot of showy stuff that back in the day was just like mesmerising to watch.
Yep.
The coordination they had with it, and the skill, like just incredible Maori musicians. And there's been a bit of a resurgence with that, from what I can tell, in New Zealand. Even at you've heard of Te Papa down in Wellington there? I've never been there, but
I've been there a few times.
What's it like?
We were just there last year.
Oh, really?
It's awesome.
Well, there's apparently a whole lot of stuff on the Quintickies and a whole bunch of the other Maori show bands. There's areas at Te Papa that have dedicated to that now.
Is that fairly recent?
Well, maybe it is.
Yeah,
this is what I'm hearing. Again, I haven't been, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just name dropping. You know, that's my Uncle Weasel. You know, that's incredible. It's just amazing. I still watch some of those clips and just go, wow, that's a whole different world. Different world. Yeah.
So is some of those clips on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll find some links.
Yeah.
Or ask you to find me some links.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Yeah, I'll send them. Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
Now you were on The Voice this year.
Oh,
2019.
Well, no. Not on it. I got invited to audition, and I didn't make the cut for the on-air stuff, but was definitely flattered and proud to be part of the whole audition process. I got through the first 2 rounds and got called in to do the key check, which they then pretty much pick the cast to go to do all the on-air shows when they go and do the live shows, and had to do all the the backstory and film a day in the life of and all the rest of it. But I didn't make the final cut of it, but was just a nice part of my kind of recovery after the couple of years I had to go in and have a little taste of how that all kind of goes. And
that's cool.
And whatever. And
I haven't heard too many stories about the people that haven't gone onto the on air.
Okay,
Plenty of stories about the people that do.
That have,
so,
yeah. Well, it was it's a big machine. That's a big machine. That whole company that does that, and great people still part of it. Scotty Applin, the musical director, he was always one of the first go-to keyboard players with FunkStar back in the day.
Oh, right, okay.
So we kind of, still sort of, we ran into each other at the audition. He was nice enough to come out before I went in to do the second run and through in front of him and all the producers and stuff, and said g'day and that. And it's a big machine, machine. And again, I mean, it's a TV show, it's definitely a singing show. Still, a lot of people will probably argue about that and have their opinions about that. But I tell you what, you can't deny Diana Ruvas.
Oh, man.
Awesome. I'm such a fan of hers. Yep. She's an incredible vocalist.
She's awesome.
And that's the essence of the show. And that's, I think, that's what maybe got lost a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people have said, and I've said it, that the public got it right.
Yeah.
And I voted.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Voted,
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, good on her, and that's an amazing story. And she's, even doing the whole comeback thing, she got close those couple of years earlier or whatever. And
well, I mean, she was on the podcast November last year.
Yeah, right.
And we talked about her first crack at The Voice.
Well, she would have been right in the middle of about to be doing all her pre-records.
Yeah.
In November, probably.
Yeah, well, no.
Oh, she hadn't been given the call in then.
Or was it? Yeah, no, at this stage.
No, okay,
well,
right.
I mean, not that she said, but...
No, she might not have said because she can't.
It didn't come across as if she knew at the time.
Yeah, maybe not then.
Because at the time she's writing and recording her album.
Yeah.
So she was talking about that.
Yeah.
Looking positive to the future and that,
absolutely.
That kind of thing.
Well, look, I mean, she's going to go on and do great things.
Yeah.
She's already done a lot of great things, but this is going to hopefully kick all that up into another gear. And
and another is Natasha Stewart. I spoke to her.
Well, Natasha, another amazing story of survival there and struggle with what she had to go through. Mm-hmm. Another one of the FunkStar crew.
Oh, right, awesome.
A lot of date. In fact, very early on when there was, Andre that was the main singer, Natasha was pretty much when we brought a girl in, it was Natasha.
Yeah.
So she did hundreds and hundreds of gigs with FunkStar.
Awesome.
The most beautiful girl,
Cool vibe.
Just so humble, such a great vibe. Yeah. And amazing to see her on the show this year. And, just a phenomenal talent, Amazing stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
So I might go back and audition again. I don't know. I'll see.
Yeah, that's good.
They always say, come back. I mean, look, you just do it because you can. And if you get asked, well, why not? Go and have a sing. And
yeah. So what was your biggest takeaway from this time around?
I think preparation is a big part. I was in the middle of moving house and my life was upside down and was going in to do these auditions, and I think I was a bit overtired. Oh, here's me trying to make excuses. No. I mean, look, your story. I certainly had a backstory that probably would have fitted the what the producers might have built out of it. I could have probably done it slightly different. I could have approached the audition a bit different. I hadn't auditioned for anything for years.
Yeah.
So what I've taken away from that is, okay, shit, this is actually an audition.
Right.
Go away next time and actually approach it a bit differently.
So what were you expecting?
No, I think I was expecting everything that it was.
Right.
I think I just probably would have approached it myself a bit differently.
Right, okay.
It's quite difficult because they give you got to do put a lot of repertoire up there that they'll pick from, but you also pick, I think, 3 songs, and then
you give them a list of songs.
Well, you give them the list, and then you can nominate the couple of songs that you want to go and sing in front of the producers.
Okay,
right? And they actually want, because you can accompany yourself if you're a guitar player or you play piano. So I accompanied myself on a couple of songs, but then out of the list, they're going to throw at you something out of that. So you're going to be very careful what you put on your list, because you might and you've got to put 50 songs on there. There's about a 50-song kind of rep that they might start to pick out, and then they're going to get an idea of the sort of singer you are based on what rep you're putting up online when you're doing your pre-audition process.
Right.
So you got to be prepared to, once they throw something at you, well, you got to throw that back at them, and because you're going to work on songs that you want to polish for your audition.
So they do that on the spot. They
can do.
Okay, right.
Yeah. I guess and again, don't get me wrong, I haven't done lots of auditions for stuff. But preparation is absolutely everything, I mean, they liked what I did. I think it's cast as a TV show.
Sure, of course.
I got some good feedback and got some tips and whatever. But again, they're casting it. So you got to fit the whole scope of story, look, style. It's quite a vast package they're putting together for a TV audience. You know, so. But I'll have another go. Why not?
Yeah.
Go and have a sing.
Yeah, it must have been a trip being part of the machine.
Just to have a look. Yeah. And I was like an old boy there. There's a few other us older guys there, whatever. Right. But just great to see the energy that they get out of you, and
So they very positive. Are they?
The crew, the producers, and all that.
Just the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean that's like I said, that's a massive machine that's been running for quite a while now.
Yep.
And they got very good people involved, and they're it's quite a high. I'm sure it's a high stress, high turnover production.
Yeah.
A lot of money involved, a lot of high end production. I mean, you look at the way they do those sets.
Yep.
And even just the pre-production with recording everything and.
Yep.
I mean the band. I mean, Michael Dolce playing guitar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool people. In that house band that are doing enormous amounts of work.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just speaking about Michael Dolce.
Yeah.
As of this year, he played all guitars on The Voice.
Well, I was wondering whether there was a second guitarist.
Usually 2 guitarists.
Well, Chris Camzales had been there with them for a couple of years.
Yep. And Daniel Marr.
Yeah.
I spoke to him a little while back. He was on The Voice last year.
Yep.
And they had a change in budget, and he didn't make the cut as second guitarist.
Yeah, right.
So Michael did the whole series, all guitars. So we talk about workload. That's
this is right, and hundreds of songs.
That's all the all the auditions, all the studio, practices and the workshops and rehearsals for live performances, and
it's massive,
far out, man.
Well, like I said, Scotty Applin, who's the MD.
Yep.
I mean, he's there from day one. Yep. Going for the auditions going nationally.
Right.
He's there day one.
Right.
So there's him. There's Bryden Stace, the head vocal kind of coach guy.
Right.
And then a bunch of the other, producers.
Yep.
But Scotty's there, accompanying people on the fly.
Right, working out keys, and all that stuff.
Absolute genius.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a massive, massive task. But this just shows you, right? Musicians, mate. The workload doesn't matter. Once you're good at what you do, they just click in and
hopefully they're getting looked after, eh?
Yeah,
the money side of things.
Well, I have no idea.
No. I wouldn't have a clue.
Well, I got no idea. Yeah. But they're once the show's running, they're full time.
Yeah, that's right.
Massive production, and still going. I mean, I would assume that's going to keep running. There was talk of it, dwindling away in ratings and all the rest of it.
Not after Diana winning it, I don't think.
Well, who knows?
It's got another leg now.
Yeah. Well, I for some reason I thought it was contracted with ITV UK, but it's down here
obviously,
and then it's got to run a course of contract time. I mean, I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. Any entertainment live on national television these days, whether you love it or hate it, at least it's on television and it's accessible. There's nothing else going on. You still got your Australia's Got Talent. You got the other shows and whatever, and they're great. Whatever you want to have your opinions of those things are, at least it's entertainment and it's on television and it's local content, right?
Yep.
So you can't go wrong. You shouldn't go wrong with it. There should be something on television at least once a week from somewhere in Australia that's live. I mean, there's no bloody midday shows anymore. There's no. You remember even Steve Vizard.
Yeah.
There's no. There's no countdowns. There's no Hey Saturday. Yeah. There's nothing else. It's a shame. So I think those shows that are still running at least give us that content. But of course, it's an open book for all the haters to, throw mud at it and go mad on it, and
Yeah.
But hey, that's life, isn't it now?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there and prepare for it all.
That's it. Now, what's the next 6 months got in store?
6 months. Well, I've just got gigs and gigs and gigs, basically.
Great.
Just keep working.
The book's full?
Yeah, it's pretty full, yeah. Off to the snow for a couple of shows week after next.
Awesome.
Go for a ski.
Yeah.
Hadn't skied for a couple of years when I was ill, obviously, and mad skier. So I can't wait to get down there and do that again. We went down a couple of weeks ago and did 2 gigs. These are just little gigs, just cover gigs, but gets me down there and gets me skiing for work. It's great, right?
That's awesome.
And just going to roll out a couple of these trilogy show concepts over the next few months and get those all rehearsed up and work till Christmas and have a little break, and then New Year's Eve at the Brass Monkey with Australian Trilogy.
Yep.
That'll be fun.
Yep.
And bring on next year, 2020.
Awesome, man.
Then the year after, America's Cup in New Zealand.
You going over?
Oh, I have to go over.
Okay.
Mad sailing.
You're
fan.
mad sailing.
Oh,
okay.
I love it, especially those catamarans.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, they're not cats this time around.
They're spaceships.
Foiling. The foiling.
Yeah, spaceships. Yeah, they actually fly.
They do.
Fucking unbelievable.
I get mesmerised watching it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm gonna work on some dates over there and do some gigs while I'm there.
Oh,
but
great.
really, just want to go over and just get out in the water and watch them and drink vodka. And good Kiwi wine.
Yeah, that's it.
And have fish and chips.
Awesome.
Sorry, fish and chops.
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Cookie, thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you, mate.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
Stoked to meet you and
you too, man.
Hang out with you for a while. It
Absolutely.
was awesome.
Been a big pleasure. I feel very blessed to be part of the team.
Part of the team,
Part
the crew.
of the team. Yeah. Very, very honoured.
Yeah,
very
awesome,
honoured.
man. No, thanks again.
You too, mate.
All right,
Thank
bro.
you.
Take it easy, and
You too.
we'll catch up soon.
Cheer.
Cheer, bro.
Cheer, bro.
Later.